Hey there, Soulshine, it's Michelle, and today we're doing a project tutorial. All you need to know how to do is a chain stitch and a single crochet. Would you like to see what it is? We're making hot pads. Now this one here is a small size version. You can make them as big or small as you want to have. And I'm making this one. I made this one for my granddaughter to have like as a play one. So this is the other side. This is this side. In the tutorial I will show you how you can have it look slightly different if that's what you want. So let's get started. Let's move on over to the other view. When you think you're recording and you're not, let's start this again. I was making one and then realized I started it wrong. So I wanted to show you. I'm going to actually turn it into a coaster because I think it would be really cute for like a hot mug of tea, cocoa, coffee, whatever you drink. I wanted to show you. This is one version of how it can look. And this is kind of how it's constructed. So it kind of would look like this if you folded it this way. And then it folds down, and then we're gonna sew it up here. This is with the right side facing out, and you could do it if you like the look. Excuse the strings, with the wrong side facing out. Your strings would not be in the way, by the way, if you like the look of that. So that's the first thing you need to decide, is if you like it with the wrong side facing out or the right side facing out. I personally like the right side better. Now you're going to get your cotton, and I'm going to show you. I have this cotton. I would not use this one for a full-sized hot pad. I just don't feel like this is going to be thick enough for the purposes. I would use a yarn that's a worsted weight. This one's probably more of a sport weight, maybe even a DK, but probably a sport. If you look at them, this one's a lot thinner than this one. And so for a real hot pad, not a child's hot pad, I would use a worsted weight cotton. Super easy to find. This, I don't know what brand this one is, but we've got like your sugar and cream. I don't think that whether it's rough or not matters, as long as it's 100% cotton. Or wool. People don't use wool in the kitchen mostly because it is not as easy to wash. But the wool is self-extinguishing, so if you could use wool for a hot pad, it actually makes a lot of sense. So I would use 100% cotton or wool. Cotton is a little bit more easy forgiving with washing things, and cotton is pretty easily available and rather inexpensive, so I would go with that. Okay, so now the other thing, let's talk about our hook size. This one happens to be a G, and I think that honestly it would be too small of a hook for this yarn. You want something that's going to be flexible. You're going to have 2 layers of fabric, so you want something that's bendable. So you want to make sure it's not too, that your fabric's not too stiff. But if you look through here, I'm not sure if you can see through this or not to see that it's actually got quite a few holes in it. So for the purposes of a hot pad, it's probably a little bit too loose of a fabric. Yes, there's the 2 sides, so you're probably not going to get burnt. I just feel like a little bit more denseness, just maybe 1 size down, probably would get those holes closed up a little bit more. A G hook might actually be a good size for a regular worsted weight cotton. I'm not sure. That's one area where I would say gauge, just to see, just a little swatch. You don't even need a full 4-inch, just a couple inches with a few rows back and forth to get an idea of how bendable it is. Maybe do it long enough so that you could fold it in half and see what it's like two together, that kind of thing. I'm just going to use this one because this is just for a child's hot pad, not something I plan on using with an oven or having my daughter-in-law use with an oven. So I'm just going to start my chain. There's going to be a tutorial in the iCards for the chain stitch, and you're just going to keep changing. Make sure you go kind of loose. And let's talk size. How long do you want your chain to be? We don't count on this project. I don't see any reason to count. But if you do find a size that you really like, maybe you want to keep track of your numbers, so you're like, okay, well, that one turned out too small, I need to have more chains. That one turned out too big, I need to have less chains. Oh, I really like this size. And then keep a note of that so that you continue to make consistent in the size you like. That is a personal choice. So on this one, as I bring it back, my foundation chain, my beginning chain, is actually right here along in this row. So that's how long it is, and if you look, that is the diagonal across my project, okay? So this one I have going to here, I actually have found this, that I want this is how big I want her hot pad to be. So I'm going to, that flap gets in the way. I'm going to lay it loosely across here, going across to the other side till I get the size that I want. See how this one is? See, almost there. I need it I feel like, I don't want you to stretch it, because if you stretch it, then it's going to end up being smaller. So this one, it's probably about right. Hello, editing, Michelle, sticking this in here. I have my chain here, and you get to make another choice at this point in time. When I was recording, if for some reason didn't record this part of it, so I had to come back and do this again. So you have your project, and you want to decide if you're going to leave it as, say, a trivet or a coaster, or if you want to have a loop on it to make it a hot pad. So if you're just going to make it a trivet or a coaster without any loop, then you would go from here. If you want to make a loop, you're going to need to chain an additional probably 15. Five, 10, 15. Okay, so we're going to turn it back over. So what we're going to do is we're going to count our loops back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then we'll go into the 16th one. And that's how big your loop would be. If you wanted a smaller loop, then you would do less chains. If you wanted a bigger loop, you would do more chains. Remember, we're working in the back loop, so I stuck that in the back loop. Okay, you're going to pull it up, do your single crochet in it. Keep going in your, I split my yarn. Keep working in your back loops across, and then there will be things on how to work the loops after that. If you were wanting it to be, so there's a space there, the other thing you could do is you would stick it in through your back loop like you wanted, pull all the way through, and then just start single crocheting in the next one. And then when you work around, you'll work in this one and this one, which are the two sides of that one. We're going to turn our chain over, we're going to work in the back loops. Okay, we're going to skip this first loop, first bump. And in my tutorial, there's chapters of my single crochet, chain crochet, chain stitch tutorial. So we've got your diagonal. Now you can either just start or you can chain one more to start for more information. So we're just going to go through and single crochet through the whole thing. And another thing in my iCards is going to be the tutorial for how to do a single crochet. So you're just going to single crochet across the entire thing. And you're just going to keep going here. I'm actually just going to meet you at the other end. I will tell you the reason why I'm going to meet you at the other end is because leaning over my little table thing here is actually physically uncomfortable. If you don't like the shape, don't worry about it. I'll work out in the end, but you can kind of tug it a little bit to straighten it out. Here I am, close to the end. I have two more little bumps left. So I'm going to go in that one, and then this one's a little harder to tell because you do have the knot, but there is a bump here. If I can get in there. Okay, now here's where your decision of which side you want to show matters, because if you want your wrong side to be the side that people see, then you need to keep this knot in front of your work and go in back here into these. If you want your right side to show, like I have, then you'll put your knot to the back, and you'll stick your, we'll just go in right there, right on the other side of that knot. And you're just going to do that. You're only going to put the one there and then keep going. So that last stitch actually has 2 stitches in it, one on each side of the knot. And then you're going to work your way back down till the other end, and I will see you when we get to this end. Here we are, pretty close to the end. And if you did not make a loop, you would have, we'll talk about that in just a second. Oops, that loop's wanting to get in the way. Looks like I have another one here. Getting into it's a little crazy right here. Sometimes as you're close to different ends, it's a little bit hard, but not impossible to get into the different places. Okay, I have one more stitch here that I can do, and then that completes the whole first round. If you did not do the loop, you would then do your same thing, you just have to be more careful. You would be at the end of your thing, and you just keep going. Go into this one here, as if so it was like that, and you'd work. Okay. For this one, you've got to kind of be careful here. So if you're working where you want your wrong side to show, this is easier. Bring your yarn to the front, come across to where this one is, and go in here. And just go like that. And now when you get done, your loop will be right there. For those of us who actually want our right side to show, we're going to have our yarn in the back. We're going to bring our loop to the front. A little bit awkward. I want to go into that stitch right there. So I'm going to kind of mark it with my fingernails so that I know, and I'm going to go in there. It's awkward because there's so much going on right there. And then do your thing and keep going. And now you've got a loop right there. Okay? And you're going to just keep going, and I will see you at the other end to show you what's going on at the other end. Alrighty, back down at the other end. I'm going to do in my, well, let's kind of look at it here. I've got my knot there. And you can kind of see I've got one here and one here. I'm going to go here, and here, and into this one. And then I'm going to go into this one here. And it's kind of hard to tell my yarn, my stitch comes out of right there, so this is my next one. Sometimes going around a corner can be a little bit challenging. Now I'm just going to keep going, and I'll meet you at the other end. Oh, one thing that I didn't say. A couple things. First of all, you don't have to worry about what direction this goes yet. Eventually, we will have it turned so that our knot's on the inside of that pocket. But for now, it might be easier to go around with it in front. It might be helpful for some of you to have a stitch marker that you either do a yarn version. Let me kind of show you what you do. If you had yarn, let's say we're just going to use this tail as our yarn version. We'd go through, we'd pull it up in and through like that. So we'd leave like a tail on the back and the tail on the outside, and it just marks a stitch right there. Usually use the contrasting yarn so that you can see it. You can take a light bulb stitch marker that you stick in and move up, and you just stick it in. Where's our corner here? So here's our corner. We could say stick it in here. That's the last stitch on thing, and stick it right there. Or do your yarn piece up here, or one of those lobster clasps one, and you would stick it on this one. So if I was doing a stitch marker, I'm going to pull this over. I actually would stick my stitch marker through here. Oh, bobby pins work great too. So whether I loop something here or all the way through both, that's where you want to stick it. Now we're down here and we've got our loop to work around. If you did not do a loop, you just keep working around, and you're just going to keep working around and around and around and around. I'm not sure what it looks like if your loop's on the other side, but it's probably pretty similar. Just keep the loop out of the way, but it will be to the back, so it might be a little easier. So you're just going to keep going, and you're just going to go in every little stitch that you see right there. Around and around, and then that still, when it gets folded down like it's going to be, that loop will be right there. Perfect little loop. And you're just going to keep going around and around and around and around until your piece, this is about half this distance, and then we'll meet back and talk about what to do next and how to know when to stop and where to stop and things like that. So I'm running out of yarn, but I'm going to undo this. This is what you do when you decide you don't want that there. It's going to come undone there, and then and now I can use this, because I ran out here, to come in here. So I want to go a little bit more So I don't want to waste so much yarn. Okay. So I'm going to stick in as if I'm going to go, and I'm going to lay this across. Pull my new one on. Just pull that through. And do it as if I was going to do it. Now I kind of take both the things, kind of snug them up. And then I'm going to go through and have both of them laying across. I like to do it over a few and then leave my tails. Now, if you are doing it so that the wrong side is the one you want on the outside, pull your tails to this side and then keep going when you leave off with your tails. I'm going to the back, so I'm going to put one of my tails out there, and I'm going to do a couple more and put it here. Depending on what I'm making, I might actually thread those in some more, but for this is fine, and they're just going to hang there inside the hub pad. Okay, so you got yourself, it's working up, it's gonna get there. So I'm gonna keep pulling out from this till I get to the end, and then we'll see what's what. Look at what's left. This is what's left of the first one I did because I needed that much yarn. That's so crazy. Anyway, as you can see, when they're folded together like this, and I kind of square it up, this is very snug along here. I'm not sure, I kind of want this, I think, to be more in the center. And it's not really lining up in the center of this. So, and that's just personal preference, I think. I mean, I guess if you're following along in your stitch markers, you know where the things end. Let's see, how much does that actually do? Okay, I'm going to actually do one more, and then I'm going to slip stitch. Just slip stitch. You stick it in, you pull it up as if you were going to do a single crochet, but instead of pulling through and going through, you just pull it all the way through, and then you've slip stitched. And now that is where I'm ending. I kind of like the position of that. I think it will work out. So I'm going to measure, and I'm going to go, I want to make sure I have enough. And so I want to do a couple of things, and then probably do an extra one just so I have enough. And then pull that all the way through. Now you could make a knot here, but because we're just gonna sew it in, I don't see the point in making a knot there, because it's not at the end. Not, okay. Just any darning needle, yarn needle. You want it to be blunt so that you're not snagging. I guess you want it to be blunt. Okay, and you're just gonna kind of flatten this out, and let's see, I'm gonna go over to this side and in through there, pull it through. There might be neater ways to do this. So if you have a different kind of if you have a different way of different joining method that you prefer, you are welcome to use that, whatever one. I know of a few. This is just nice and easy, and it works for me. So you're just going to keep going along underneath the loops on this side and the loops on this side. Okay, as we're coming up on the end here, we're just going to keep going, go through again right there. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to run it down. It doesn't really matter where you run it down through, because if you want your end a little bit rounder, don't know if you noticed that. Pull it back out again. When I kind of pulled this, kind of pulled the end a little bit rounder, and which matches a little bit more with the other ends. Or it doesn't matter if, as long as you're not going through to the other side, you can go in like right now. I'm loosey-goosey underneath there. And I'm just going back down where I was. And the idea is to get back to here. So you can go through stitches if you want to go kind of through the stitches, or you can go out back through like that. Alrighty, now we're going to continue our stitches, this time going to the other end. Oh, one thing that I wanted to show you that I totally forgot. So some of you may have done it, and you may find that your tails ended up on the wrong side of this. Isn't that cute? And you'll be like, oh no, I need to pull that through. You can actually just like stick your, here, let's pretend here for a moment. Let's pretend you ended up with the tail just hanging out like that. What you would then do is, just like I did before, you would go in through the where that tail's coming out and pull it, whoops, and you grab a hold of it and pull it through, and then it would be on the inside. Obviously, I was just using a scrap iron, so, but I wanted to make sure that I addressed that in case that was a problem you guys had. Okay, as you can see, I'm here at the end. I've got, looks like these two and these two, 4 more stitches, so I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to go in here as well, just because I think that will help me to pull my corner. And I'm going to go in under a few of these for a minute. So it does have this line down there. Different ways of hooking it together would get different things, but I just wanted a simple one for you. If you want to block it, just to make sure that the shape is right, if that matters to you, then you can block it, and you have yourself a hot pad there on that. Let's finish this off here. So I'm going to actually see if I can catch kind of, not this top loop, but kind of underneath. So I want it to kind of get hidden underneath. So I'm going to pull it not all the way through, but I'm going to go around, and I'm going to go around a couple times. And then I'm going to try to pull it tight down where the knots, want the knot down as close to that as I can. And then I'm going to go down in here again, and I'm going to pull it over here. pull it up just tight enough, not the stretch things, but it pulls the knot underneath so you can't see. And then I just kind of pull. How do we do this? Show you this. Okay, kind of. You've got your string coming out. Pull it a little bit tighter. And then snip it. And then when you straighten it out again, it goes back inside. And there you have it. A finished hot pad. And this one is the square. I am curious if how my square ended up with this. Not too bad size-wise. Actually, I did pretty good. Awesomeness. Because that's about the size I wanted, and so I got the size I wanted. So, and the key to that was laying my chain loosely across there. Okay guys, how did your hot pad turn out? Are you pleased with it? Is it exciting to know that you were able to make one? Tag me on Instagram at SoMagicalMichelle and let me see what you've done with these. I'm really excited to share this project with you. Do you have any questions for me? If so, leave them in the comments below, and if they're easy to answer, I'll just answer them right away. If it's something that would require a video, I'll be sure to make a video and come back and let you know I made it. Remember to let your light shine through your creations, and I will see you guys next time.